Welcome, dear listener, and thank you for being here. You are received gently, just as you are, without expectation and without urgency. There is nothing you need to prepare, nothing you need to set aside, and nothing you need to hold on to. Simply allowing these words to be present is already enough. You may listen, or you may drift, or you may rest somewhere in between. This space does not require effort or attention. It is offered with courtesy, patience, and calm, as one might quietly draw a chair closer to the fire without asking anything in return. Tonight, you are not entering a story, and you are not following a path. You are remaining. The theme is simple and steady, and it will not change as the night continues. We remain with Jesus in Gethsemane, staying within the night of surrender, not moving through it, not resolving it, not explaining it. This is not a moment of action, and it is not a moment of teaching. It is a moment of presence, of quiet endurance, of stillness that does not demand meaning. Jesus is here as he was then, calm, human, steady, breathing beneath the open night, surrounded by olive trees that do not speak and do not ask. The garden does not shine or darken dramatically. It simply rests in the night, as it always has. The air is cool and unmoving, carrying the faint, familiar scent of earth and leaves. Nothing in this place rushes. Nothing tries to awaken you. Even the silence feels settled, as if it has been waiting for a long time and is content to wait longer. You are not asked to imagine this clearly. If images arise, they may remain distant and indistinct. If no images come at all, that is equally fitting. The night does not depend on your imagination to exist. Jesus remains here, not because something new is about to happen, but because remaining is what this hour holds. There is no urgency in his presence, no visible struggle, no outward display. Surrender here is quiet and inward, like a deep breath taken without sound. The weight of what lies ahead is not pushed away, but it is not carried actively either. It simply exists, resting within the stillness of the garden. This kind of surrender does not ask for strength. It asks only for staying, for not fleeing the quiet, for allowing the night to be what it already is. As you stay with this presence, your own body may begin to feel less demanding. You do not need to monitor your breath or adjust your posture. The body knows how to rest when it is not being directed. Sensations soften at their edges, becoming less specific, less insistent. Thoughts may appear and fade without forming patterns. Nothing needs to be followed. Nothing needs to be completed. The mind is allowed to loosen its grip, not because it is told to relax, but because there is nothing here that requires holding. This arrival is gentle, because it does not introduce change. It does not lead somewhere else. It does not mark a beginning that must be remembered. The night in Gethsemane does not progress in this telling. Time does not advance toward morning. The garden remains exactly as it is, and Jesus remains within it, steady and present, without explanation and without conclusion. The longer you rest here, the less distinct the boundaries become between listening and not listening, between awareness and rest. You are not being guided toward sleep, and you are not being instructed to let go. Sleep is allowed to come on its own, or not at all, without altering anything. This space holds both wakefulness and rest. Without preference, the night holds both without distinction. As this gentle arrival continues, the words themselves will gradually require less of you, becoming part of the same quiet fabric as the garden air, the unmoving trees, and the steady presence of surrender that does not ask to be understood. Nothing needs to end here. Nothing needs to begin. You are already remaining here. Nothing shifts abruptly, and nothing asks you to adjust. The presence that was already established does not change its tone or its weight. It simply stays, and in staying, it begins to soften the mind without instruction. Thoughts do not need to be quieted, because they are not a problem to solve. They can move slowly, like clouds that have no urgency to pass. In the garden, the night does not react to thought, and Jesus does not respond to it either. He remains steady, breathing evenly, allowing the moment to exist exactly as it is, without commentary and without resistance. The mind begins to slow, not because it is told to slow, but because there is nothing here that feeds its momentum. There are no new ideas arriving, no changes to track, no signals that require interpretation. The olive trees do not move closer or farther away. The ground beneath remains firm and cool. The air rests gently against skin and clothing, unchanged. This sameness is what allows mental activity to thin, to spread out, to lose its sharp edges. Thoughts may still appear, but they do so more slowly now, with wider spaces between them, as if they have farther to travel before being noticed. Jesus remains awake in this quiet, not with alertness, but with presence. His awareness is not scanning or anticipating. It is simply resting within the night, allowing the weight of the hour to exist without being managed. This is not vigilance. It is acceptance without effort. The mind, when it senses this kind of steadiness, begins to mirror it naturally. There is no command being given to relax, no signal to release control. Control simply becomes unnecessary when nothing is asking for it. As the mind slows, time begins to feel less structured. Moments do not line up in sequence. There is no sense of before or after pressing in. The garden does not mark time. It does not count the hours. It remains within the same quiet interval, and that interval stretches comfortably, wide enough to hold everything without pressure. In T-space, attention does not need to stay sharp. It can soften, drift, return, or fade without consequence. Nothing important is missed by doing so. If awareness moves away from the words, and then back again, that movement is gentle and unimportant. The words are not carrying instructions that must be followed. They are simply part of the environment now, like the sound of wind that may or may not be noticed. Jesus does not focus on anything specific in the garden. He does not analyze the stillness or seek meaning from it. He remains present, grounded, allowing the mind to be quiet by not asking it to perform. This slowing does not deepen all at once. It spreads gradually, like warmth settling into stone. The edges of thoughts soften first, then the spaces between thoughts widen, then even the need to notice thinking at all begins to fade. The garden supports this without comment. The night supports it without change, and as you remain here, nothing needs to be held in mind. Nothing needs to be remembered. Nothing needs to be anticipated. The mind is free to rest within this steady presence, slowing gently, naturally, as everything continues to remain exactly where it is. The slowing continues without being marked, without being announced, because nothing here needs to be tracked or measured. The mind does not arrive at a quieter place. It simply notices that there is less reason to move. In the garden, the night holds the same temperature, the same weight, the same stillness, and Jesus remains within it, without adjustment. His presence does not tighten or relax. It simply stays steady, and that steadiness makes effort unnecessary. When there's nothing to respond to, the mind naturally eases, like a hand unclenching when it realizes it was holding nothing. Thoughts, when they appear now, feel softer and less complete. They do not form long chains or demand resolution. They may begin and then lose their shape halfway through, dissolving before they finish arriving. There is no need to follow them or correct them. The garden does not react to thought, and neither does Jesus. He does not engage or withdraw. He remains present, allowing awareness to exist without direction. This kind of presence does not stimulate the mind. It reassures it that nothing is required. The sense of time continues to loosen. Minutes no longer feel distinct from one another. The mind does not need to know how long it has been here, or how long it will remain. The night does not measure itself, and the garden does not anticipate change. There is no expectation of movement toward dawn, no quiet countdown unfolding in the background. This moment does not progress. It simply repeats itself gently, the same stillness returning again and again, familiar enough that the mind no longer needs to stay alert. Jesus remains awake, yet there is no tension in that wakefulness. It is not watchfulness. It is not preparation. It is simply being present within surrender, allowing what is to be without resisting it or reaching beyond it. This presence has no sharp edges. It does not pull attention forward or backward. The mind, sensing this, continues to slow, not by force, but by relief. When nothing needs to be managed, thinking loses its urgency. As awareness softens further, the words themselves begin to feel more distant, less central. They may drift to the edge of attention or pass through unnoticed. This is not a loss. It is a sign that the mind no longer needs to stay engaged. The garden remains whether or not it is being imagined. Jesus remains whether or not he is being pictured. Presence does not depend on focus. It simply continues, quiet and unchanged. If the boundary between listening and resting becomes unclear, that is welcome. The mind does not need to decide whether it is awake or drifting. Both are held equally here. The slowing does not reach a conclusion, and it does not complete a process. It continues gently, evenly, without a sense of arrival. The night remains the night. The garden remains the garden. Jesus remains in surrender, and within this sameness, the mind is free to soften further, unhurried and undisturbed, as everything continues to remain exactly as it is. Nothing new begins as this resting state settles in, because it has already been forming quietly beneath the surface. The slowing of the mind does not shift into something else. It simply becomes less noticeable, less important. Rest here is not a change in condition, but a gentle thinning of effort. In their garden, the night continues without variation, and Jesus remains within it without needing to adjust his posture or his thoughts. The ground supports him without comment. The air rests against him without insistence. Everything that is present feels sufficient, as though the world itself has decided to pause and remain exactly as it is. This resting state does not ask the body to relax. It allows the body to discover that it no longer needs to hold itself in readiness. Muscles soften in their own time, not all at once, not deliberately, but naturally. Like fabric settling when it is no longer being pulled, breath continues its quiet rhythm, unobserved, steady, and ordinary. There is no reason to notice it closely. The body knows how to rest when it is not being directed, and here, there is nothing demanding direction. Jesus rests within this same simplicity. His presence in Gethsemane is not tense or strained. There is no visible effort in remaining here. Surrender, in this moment, feels like stillness that has found its own balance. It is not heavy, and it is not light. It simply exists, held by the night, held by the garden, held by a steadiness that does not need to be named. This kind of rest does not eliminate awareness. It makes awareness less sharp, less focused, less concerned with edges. The mind, now, rests by not insisting on coherence. Thoughts may appear as fragments, impressions without beginnings or endings. They do not need to connect. They do not need to make sense. The garden does not make sense of itself, and neither does the night. They simply remain. In this sameness, the mind finds that it can rest without falling asleep, and without staying alert. Both states are equally acceptable here, equally supported. Time continues to lose its shape. The sense of duration softens until it is no longer clear whether moments are passing or simply repeating themselves. This does not create confusion. It creates ease. When time is no longer tracked, there is nothing to wait for and nothing to anticipate. Jesus does not wait for the night to change. He does not look for signs of movement. He remains present within the same quiet interval, and that presence makes waiting unnecessary. As this resting state continues, awareness becomes broader and less defined. It is no longer focused on any single thing. It spreads gently, like light diffusing through fog, without a clear center. The words you hear are part of that diffusion now, no longer central, no longer demanding. They exist alongside the quiet of the garden, alongside the steady presence of surrender that does not ask to be understood. Everything remains calm, unchanged, and sufficient, allowing rest to deepen simply by remaining exactly where it is. The resting state continues without marking itself. Because nothing here announces a change. There is no threshold crossed, no signal given that rest has deepened. It simply remains present, wide and unpressured, allowing everything to settle further by not interfering. In the garden, the night holds the same temperature, the same density, the same quiet familiarity. Jesus remains where he is, not shifting his weight with intention, not adjusting himself toward comfort or relief. The ground beneath him is firm and ordinary, and that ordinariness is enough. Nothing needs to become softer for rest to exist. Rest is already here. This kind of resting does not pull the body downward into sleep, nor does it keep the body upright in alertness. It allows the body to exist somewhere between, where sensation is present, but no longer organized. The boundaries of the body feel less precise, not because they disappear, but because they are no longer being referenced. There is no need to check where the hands are, or how the legs are positioned, or whether the breath is deep or shallow. These details do not require awareness. They continue on their own, quietly competent, just as they do in the garden, just as they do when no one is paying attention. Jesus remains within this same unexamined physical presence. His body is not tense with anticipation, and it is not collapsing into exhaustion. It is simply there, supported by the earth, surrounded by air, held by the night without commentary. Surrender here does not look like effort or release. It looks like stillness that no longer argues with itself. The weight of the moment is allowed to exist without being measured, without being named, without being carried actively. It rests where it is, as naturally as the stones rest in the soil. The mind, within this resting state, no longer seeks orientation. It does not ask where it is or what comes next. Thoughts arise less as sentences and more as impressions, half-formed and easily dissolving. Some may appear as faint images, others as emotional tones without stories attached. None of them need to be completed. None of them need to be understood. The mind is no longer working to create continuity. It is content to remain within fragments, because nothing here requires coherence. Titan, too, continues to soften. The sense of duration becomes increasingly vague, as though the night itself has stretched wide enough to contain many moments without distinguishing between them. In Gethsemane, the night does not progress toward a goal. It does not hurry toward morning. It simply exists, repeating itself quietly, moment after moment, without urgency. Jesus does not count the hours. He does not measure how long he has been there. Remaining does not require tracking. As this sameness continues, the mind begins to feel less personal, less centered on a sense of me. Awareness spreads outward, becoming more like an atmosphere than a point of focus. There is still perception, but it is diffuse and gentle. The words you hear are no longer separate from the quiet they move through. They are simply part of the environment, like wind that may be noticed briefly and then forgotten. Nothing important depends on them being followed. The garden supports this diffusion without change. The olive trees remain still, their presence steady and unremarkable. They do not react to awareness deepening or fading. They simply remain, just as they have through countless nights. Jesus remains among them, not as a figure demanding attention, but as a calm human presence, sharing the same night, the same stillness. There is no emphasis placed on his thoughts or emotions. What matters here is presence without display, steadiness without instruction. Rest deepens here by becoming less noticeable. When rest is no longer monitored, it becomes more complete. The mind does not need to check whether it is resting enough or drifting too far. Both states are equally supported. The boundary between listening and not listening continues to blur, not abruptly, but gently, as though awareness itself is growing tired of defining its own edges. Nothing resolves in this resting state. There is no quiet conclusion forming beneath the surface. The night does not prepare to change. The garden does not shift its tone. Jesus does not move toward action or decision. Everything remains suspended within the same calm interval, wide and steady. And within that sameness, the body and mind are free to rest more fully, not by doing less, but by no longer needing to do anything at all. The resting state remains steady, not deepening in a way that can be noticed, not shifting in texture or tone, simply continuing as it already is. There is no signal that rest has progressed, because progress is not part of this space. In the garden, the night stays consistent, neither thickening nor thinning, neither cooling nor warming in any meaningful way. Jesus remains within it without adjustment, not because he is fixed in place, but because nothing requires movement. Remaining feels natural here, as though the night itself has made movement unnecessary. The body continues to be present without asking for attention. Sensations still exist, but they are no longer arranged into something that needs interpretation. Weight is felt without being evaluated. Contact with the surface beneath is known without being defined. The body rests not by becoming lighter or heavier, but by no longer being checked. There is no internal inventory being taken. Muscles release their readiness gradually, unevenly, in their own quiet timing, like knots loosening when they are no longer pulled against. Jesus shares this same unremarkable physical stillness. His body is not highlighted or dramatized. It does not signal strain or relief. It simply exists within the garden, supported by the same earth that supports everything else. Surrender in this moment does not require a posture or a gesture. It exists inwardly, quietly, like a deep consent that does not need to be expressed. The night accepts this without response. The garden does not witness it with meaning. It simply holds it. The mind continues to rest by becoming less invested in itself. Thoughts may still appear, but they no longer feel central. They drift at the edges of awareness, indistinct and incomplete. Some may pass through as emotional tones without memory attached. Others may appear as vague impressions that never become clear images. None of them linger. None of them gather momentum. The mind does not attempt to organize them, because there is no reason to do so. Organization has no purpose here. Awareness itself begins to feel more spacious and less anchored. It does not settle on any single object. It does not remain fixed on the words, nor does it drift entirely away from them. It hovers gently, present without focus, like light diffused through darkness. This is not a loss of awareness. It is a softening of its boundaries. There is still knowing, but it is broad and quiet, without sharp edges. Time becomes even less distinct. The sense of sequence loosens further, until moments feel interchangeable. There is no internal marker to indicate how long this resting has been happening. There is no anticipation of what follows. In Gethsemane, the night does not hint at dawn. It does not prepare for change. It remains fully itself, moment after moment, without signaling direction. Jesus remains within this same unchanging interval, not counting it, not enduring it, simply being present within it. The garden continues to offer sameness. The olive trees do not shift their presence. The ground does not cool or warm noticeably. The air does not stir in a way that draws attention. This lack of variation is what allows rest to continue deepening without being noticed. When nothing changes, the mind no longer needs to stay alert for difference. Vigilance becomes unnecessary. Awareness can spread and thin without risk. The words themselves now feel lighter, less substantial. They no longer arrive as messages to be understood. They pass through like soft sounds in the distance, sometimes noticed, sometimes not. This is not a problem. Nothing important depends on them. The garden remains whether the words are heard or forgotten. Jesus remains whether attention stays with him or drifts elsewhere. Presence does not depend on focus. In this resting state, there is no distinction between staying awake and drifting toward sleep. Both are simply ways of remaining. The body may feel heavier or lighter at different moments, but these sensations do not indicate movement toward a goal. They are simply fluctuations within stillness. The mind does not need to decide what state it is in. It is free to rest within uncertainty, because uncertainty carries no consequence here. Everything continues as it is, without resolution and without expectation. The night holds. The garden holds. Jesus remains in surrender, not as an act being performed, but as a state, that has already settled in. And within this steady sameness, rest continues quietly, evenly, without calling attention to itself, allowing awareness to soften further, simply by remaining exactly where it is. The resting state continues without any clear boundary separating one moment from another, as though the night itself has decided that distinction is unnecessary. There is no sense of having arrived anywhere, because nothing here was approached in the first place. In Gethsemane, the same quiet interval repeats itself gently, not in a way that feels cyclical or patterned, but in a way that feels simply unchanged. Jesus remains within this sameness, not holding himself in place, not choosing stillness moment by moment, but allowing the stillness to hold him without effort. The body now rests in a way that no longer feels intentional. It is not relaxing because it was told to relax, and it is not letting go because it was guided to do so. It rests because there is nothing left that requires readiness. Sensation continues, but it has lost its edges. Weight is present, but it is no longer measured. Contact with the surface beneath feels diffuse, spread out, as though the body were gently dissolving into support rather than pressing against it. Breath continues in its own quiet rhythm, sometimes noticed, sometimes forgotten, never needing to be adjusted. Jesus shares this same unexamined physical presence. His body does not express strain or release. It does not signal the importance of the moment through movement or stillness. It simply exists within the night, supported by the earth, surrounded by air that neither comforts nor challenges. Surrender here does not look dramatic or decisive. It looks like a long, steady consent to remain where he is, without attempting to escape the quieter rush toward resolution. The night accepts this presence without response. The mind, now, rests by no longer caring whether it is resting. The need to evaluate one's own state fades away. Thoughts may still surface occasionally, but they do so gently, without insistence, and they dissolve before they can form structure. There is no sense of unfinished business attached to them. They do not ask to be completed. The mind no longer reaches for clarity or continuity. It is content to remain within softness, allowing awareness to be wide and indistinct. Awareness itself begins to feel less like something that belongs to a single point, and more like something that fills the space quietly. It does not hover over the body or attach to the words. It simply exists, diffuse and calm, without a center that needs protecting. The words you hear now are part of that field rather than objects within it. They may pass through without leaving an impression. They may fade entirely for stretches of time. This is not a loss. Nothing depends on their being held. Time has little meaning here. There is no sense of duration accumulating. The mind does not know whether it has been here for a long while or only briefly. The night in Gethsemane does not suggest movement toward morning. It does not hint at change. It remains fully itself, moment after moment, without signaling direction. Jesus remains within this unmarked time, not enduring it, not counting it, simply sharing its stillness. The garden continues to offer the same quiet environment. The olive trees stand without shifting their presence. The ground remains firm and ordinary. The air does not change its texture in a way that draws attention. This consistency creates a sense of safety that does not need to be acknowledged. When nothing changes, there is nothing to monitor. The mind no longer needs to stay alert. Vigilance fades naturally when there is no variation to respond to. Rest deepens here, not by moving downward, but by spreading outward. It becomes less concentrated, less noticeable, until it feels more like an atmosphere than a state. There is no clear line between awareness and rest. Listening and not listening feel similar. Wakefulness and drifting feel equally acceptable. The mind does not need to choose. It is free to hover, to soften, to fade, without consequence. Jesus remains present within this same gentle diffusion. He is not the focus of attention, and he does not demand it. His presence is quiet and human, steady and unremarkable. The night does not frame him as significant or symbolic. He is simply there, remaining within surrender that does not seek expression. This presence offers no lesson and no instruction. It simply exists. And that existence is enough. Nothing resolves, as this resting state continues. There is no subtle shift, preparing for something else. The night does not gather itself for a transition. The garden does not change its tone. Everything remains suspended within the same calm interval, wide and steady, without a sense of movement or conclusion. And within this sustained sameness, rest is allowed to continue quietly, without effort and without awareness, as everything remains exactly as it is, held gently within the night of surrender. Safety does not arrive here as a feeling that rises, or a thought that reassures. It is already present, settled quietly beneath everything else, like the ground that has been holding the garden long before this night began. In Gethsemane, nothing announces that it is safe, because safety does not need to declare itself. It exists in the lack of disturbance, in the absence of demand, in the way the night allows everything to remain without challenge. Jesus remains within this holding, not because he seeks protection, but because protection is already woven into the stillness surrounding him. The sense of being held here is not dramatic or emotional. It does not lift or embrace in a way that draws attention. It is subtle and constant, like gravity that does not need to be noticed in order to function. The body begins to sense this holding not through sensation, but through relief. There is less need to brace, less reason to remain prepared. Muscles do not suddenly relax. They simply stop waiting. The body understands, without instruction, that nothing is about to intrude. Jesus remains grounded within this same quiet assurance. His presence in the garden is not guarded or defensive. There is no tightening against what might come. Safety here is not the absence of what lies ahead, but the steadiness of being held within the present. The night does not promise that nothing will happen. It promises only that, in Tia's moment, everything is supported. That is Inog. Jesus does not look outward for reassurance. He remains inwardly steady, allowing himself to be held by the night without asking it to explain itself. The mind, sensing this holding, begins to loosen its vigilance even further. Thoughts no longer scan for potential shifts or signals. There is nothing here that needs to be anticipated. Awareness does not need to stay sharp, because there is no edge to guard. The garden does not hide surprises. The night does not prepare sudden movement. This sameness becomes a kind of shelter, wide and unthreatening, allowing attention to soften without risk. Holding here does not feel like containment. It does not restrict or confine. It feels spacious, allowing everything to exist without pressure. The body rests within this space as though it were supported from all sides, not pressed inward, not pushed downward, but gently sustained. The sense of where the body ends and the environment begins becomes less important. Boundaries soften not because they disappear, but because they no longer serve a purpose. Jesus remains within this same spacious holding. His presence does not stand apart from the garden. He is not separate from the night or the earth beneath him. He shares the same support, the same quiet steadiness. Surrender here does not feel exposed. It feels sheltered. There's no sense of being unprotected and remaining still. The night itself becomes the shelter, wide enough to hold uncertainty without strain. As this sense of safety continues, the mind no longer needs to form narratives. It does not rehearse possibilities or revisit past moments. Those movements lose their relevance here. The present does not require explanation. It does not need to be justified or prepared for. Awareness can rest broadly, without attaching itself to any single thought or image. The words you hear now move through that same broad space, not as instructions, not as messages to be retained, but as gentle sounds that confirm the steadiness of the environment. Time continues to feel indistinct. There is no sense of counting or waiting. Safety here is not measured in duration. It is not something that must last. It is something that simply is. The garden does not keep track of how long it has been holding this night. Jesus does not measure the hours. Remaining does not require endurance when there is nothing pressing against it. The holding presence of this space does not tighten as awareness fades. It does not weaken when attention drifts. Safety does not depend on vigilance. It does not require you to stay awake or aware, whether the mind floats near the surface or sinks into deeper rest. the holding remains unchanged. The night does not withdraw its steadiness when it is not being noticed. Jesus remains calm within this quiet assurance. His surrender does not feel risky here. It feels supported, as though the night itself understands the weight he carries and chooses to hold it without comment. There is no need for reassurance spoken aloud. The safety is not communicated through words or signs. It is communicated through consistency, through the unchanging nature of the garden, through the absence of interruption. As this part continues, the sense of being held becomes less something that is felt and more something that is assumed. It does not need to be checked. It does not need to be confirmed. It simply remains in the background, constant and reliable. Awareness can soften further within this quiet shelter, knowing without thinking that nothing here requires defense or readiness. Everything is already being held, gently and completely, within the same steady night where Jesus remains, calm and unhurried, surrounded by a safety that does not need to be named. The holding continues without tightening, without shifting its shape, because nothing here needs reinforcement. Safety does not increase or decrease. It does not respond to attention or fade when it is forgotten. It remains constant, like the ground beneath the garden that continues to support weight, whether it is noticed or not. In Gethsemane, the night does not watch itself holding. It simply holds. Jesus remains within this quiet support, not leaning into it, not testing it, but allowing it to exist as something already given. This sense of being held does not draw the body inward. It allows the body to spread gently into rest, as though support were coming from all directions at once. There is no single point of pressure. Weight is distributed without being calculated. The body no longer feels like something that must be maintained or protected. It exists as part of the environment, resting within the same space as the earth, the air, the trees. Boundaries are still present, but they are no longer defended. There is nothing here that threatens them. Jesus shares this same unguarded physical presence. His body is not braced against what lies ahead. It is not tense with readiness. It is simply present, supported by the night without condition. Safety here does not promise that the future will be easy or unchanged. It promises only that, in this moment, nothing needs to be resisted. That promise is enough. Jesus does not seek reassurance beyond it. He remains steady, allowing the holding of the present to be sufficient. The mind, resting within this safety, releases its habit of scanning. There is no need to look ahead or behind. The sense of threat dissolves not because it has been addressed, but because it has become irrelevant. Nothing here signals danger. Nothing requires evaluation. Awareness no longer needs to stay alert. It can widen and soften without fear of missing something important. The garden does not hide sudden movement. The night does not carry surprises. This sameness becomes a kind of shelter that does not close in. Thoughts that arise within this space feel less personal, less urgent. They do not attach themselves to identity or responsibility. They appear briefly and then fade, like ripples that do not reach the edges of a wide pool. There is no need to follow them. There is no need to push them away. The mind does not need to choose between engagement and withdrawal. Both feel unnecessary. Safety here allows neutrality, allowing awareness to rest without preference. Time continues to lose its sharpness. The mind does not track how long this holding has been present. Duration feels irrelevant when nothing is changing. The night in Gethsemane does not mark itself with signs of passage. It does not move toward resolution. Jesus does not count the moments. Remaining does not require patience when there is no sense of waiting. Safety here exists outside of time, not because time has stopped, but because it no longer matters. The environment continues to reinforce this holding through its consistency. The olive trees remain still, their presence unchanged. The ground does not shift. The air does not suddenly cool or warm. These small continuities matter more than reassurance ever could. They create a background of reliability that does not ask to be noticed. The body and mind respond to this reliability by loosening further, by letting go of the need to check or confirm. Jesus remains within this same reliable stillness. His surrender does not feel exposed here. It feels sheltered. not by walls or barriers, but by the quiet agreement of the night to remain as it is. There is no sense of being watched or judged. The garden does not witness in a way that adds pressure. It simply exists alongside him, sharing the same space, the same night, the same holding. As awareness continues to soften, the sense of being held becomes less explicit. It moves into the background, becoming an assumption rather than a sensation. Safety no longer needs to be felt to be present. It does not disappear when it is no longer noticed. It remains steady beneath everything else, supporting rest without requiring attention. The words you hear now are part of that same background, no longer separate from the quiet that surrounds them. There is no requirement to remain conscious of safety. The mind does not need to remind itself that it is held. That knowledge is no longer verbal or conceptual. It exists as a quiet ease, a lack of urgency, a willingness to let awareness drift without concern. Whether attention remains near the surface or sinks deeper into rest, the holding does not change. The night does not withdraw its support when awareness fades. Jesus remains calm within this unspoken assurance. His presence does not seek confirmation. It does not test the steadiness of the moment. He remains exactly where he is, allowing the holding to do what it already does without interference. This surrender does not need to be expressed outwardly. It is complete in its quietness, complete in its lack of movement. Nothing prepares to shift as this holding continues. There is no signal of transition forming beneath the surface. Safety does not lead somewhere else. It simply remains wide and reliable, allowing everything within it to soften further. The garden holds, the night holds, Jesus remains. And within this steady containment, awareness is free to rest more deeply, untroubled and unguarded, knowing without thinking that nothing here requires defense or effort, because everything is already being held. The holding does not become stronger or more apparent as time passes, because it does not need reinforcement. It remains exactly as it is, quiet and sufficient, without responding to awareness or the absence of it. In Gethsemane, the night does not lean closer or pull away. It does not tighten its presence around what it holds. It simply stays wide and dependable, allowing everything within it to exist without pressure. Jesus remains inside this same steady containment, not testing it, not questioning it, but resting within it as something already settled. The body continues to experience this holding not as sensation, but as the absence of strain. There is no sense of bracing against the surface beneath, no subtle effort to maintain position. The body feels supported from below, around, and within, as though the idea of falling or slipping has become irrelevant. Weight is no longer something that needs to be managed. It is simply there, distributed naturally, without resistance. The body does not need to relax actively. It rests because there is nothing left to hold against. Jesus shares this same quiet physical ease. His body is not highlighted as a source of meaning or symbolism. It is simply present, human and ordinary, supported by the same ground that supports stones and roots and fallen leaves. There is no visible sign of struggle or comfort. Surrender here does not require visible expression. It exists inwardly, as a deep acceptance of being held without condition. The night does not respond to this acceptance. It does not affirm or reject it. It simply continues to hold. The mind, resting within this steady safety, loosens its attachment to identity. Thoughts no longer cluster around a sense of self that needs protecting or defining. They appear briefly, lightly, without anchoring themselves. Some may arise as faint memories, others as indistinct emotional tones, but none of them insist on relevance. The mind does not feel the need to claim or reject them. Safety here allows neutrality, allowing awareness to remain open without becoming involved. Awareness itself continues to widen, spreading gently beyond the boundaries of focused attention. It does not settle on the body, the words, or the image of the garden. It exists as a quiet field, spacious and calm, without a clear center. This is not dissociation or absence. It is presence without fixation. There is still knowing, but it is broad and unhurried, unconcerned with detail. The mind does not need to stay alert to maintain safety. Safety exists independently of awareness. Time continues to soften further, losing its sense of direction. There is no impression of moving forward or backward. Moments do not accumulate, they simply exist, one indistinguishable from the next. In Gethsemane, the night does not hint at change. It does not prepare for interruption. Jesus remains within this unmarked time, not waiting for it to pass, not enduring it, simply sharing its stillness. Safety here is not bound to duration. It does not need to last a certain length of time to be real. The environment continues to reinforce this sense of holding through its consistency. The olive trees do not sway or shift in a way that demands attention. Their presence remains constant, neither inviting nor rejecting awareness. The ground remains firm and unchanging. The air rests quietly, without sudden movement. These elements do not act as symbols or messages. They are simply present, and their sameness allows the mind to rest more deeply, free from the need to monitor for change. Jesus remains within this same environment, not set apart from it. He is not framed as central or exceptional. He shares the same space, the same night, the same holding. His surrender does not isolate him. It places him fully within the garden, within the night, within the quiet assurance that nothing in this moment needs to be resisted. Safety here does not remove uncertainty about what lies ahead. It allows uncertainty to exist without creating tension. As awareness continues to soften, the sense of being held becomes almost imperceptible. It does not disappear. It simply no longer needs to be felt. The mind no longer checks for safety. It assumes it the way one assumes the ground will continue to exist beneath the feet. This assumption does not require thought. It is not an idea to be maintained. It exists as ease, as the absence of urgency, as the freedom to drift without concern. The words you hear now are fully embedded within this holding. They no longer arrive as separate elements to be processed. They move through awareness like distant sounds that do not need to be identified. Sometimes they may be noticed. Sometimes they may fade entirely. Neither matters. The holding does not depend on listening. It does not weaken when attention softens. Safety here is not conditional on engagement. Jesus remains calm within this deep quiet. His presence does not ask for recognition or interpretation. He does not signal meaning through his stillness. He simply remains, human and steady, allowing himself to be held by the same night that holds everything else. This surrender is not fragile. It is not exposed. It is grounded in the reliability of the present moment, in the consistency of the garden, in the steadiness of the night that does not change. Nothing prepares to shift as this holding continues. There is no subtle tightening that suggests transition. Safety does not lead toward resolution. It does not open into something new. It simply remains, wide and unremarkable, allowing awareness to soften further without fear. The garden holds, the night holds. Jesus remains, and within this quiet containment, the mind and body are free to rest even more deeply, unguarded and undisturbed, knowing without thought that everything here is already being held. The holding remains steady without announcing itself, as though it has always been here and will continue without needing acknowledgement. There is no sense that it has reached a peak or a fullness. It does not swell or recede. It simply continues, quiet and reliable, allowing everything within it to settle further by not interfering. In Gethsemane, the night does not adjust its presence in response to what it holds. It does not tighten around Jesus or soften in sympathy. It remains wide and sufficient, offering a containment that does not need to be felt to be real. The body rests within this holding as something that no longer needs to be managed. There is no effort to remain still and no effort to let go. Stillness happens on its own when there is nothing to resist. The sense of weight becomes less defined, spreading gently through contact rather than pressing downward. The body does not feel as though it might fall or slip. Support is assumed rather than tested. Breath continues quietly, without rhythm being counted or followed, sometimes present in awareness, sometimes not noticed at all. Jesus shares this same unexamined physical presence. His body is not framed as fragile or strong. It is simply present, human and ordinary, resting within the night without commentary. Surrender here does not require a visible act or decision. It exists as a steady willingness to remain exactly where he is, without reaching forward or pulling back. The night does not respond to this willingness. It does not confirm it or challenge it. It simply holds. The mind, now deeply at ease within this safety, no longer feels the need to maintain orientation. There is no checking of state, no internal question about whether rest is deep enough or attention is fading too far. These distinctions lose their importance. Awareness drifts naturally, sometimes closer to the surface of thought, sometimes spreading wide and thin. There is no penalty for drifting. Safety does not depend on alertness. It does not withdraw when attention softens. Thoughts, when they appear, are light and incomplete. They do not organize themselves into narratives. They do not demand resolution. They pass through awareness like faint echoes that do not linger. The mind does not reach for them or push them away. It allows them to exist briefly and then dissolve. This neutrality is possible because nothing here feels threatening or urgent. Safety removes the need for engagement. Awareness itself becomes increasingly diffuse, no longer anchored to a single point. It does not rest exclusively in the body or the words. It does not stay fixed on the image of the garden. It exists as a quiet field, spacious and calm, without a center that needs protecting. This is not absence. It is presence without focus. There is still knowing, but it is broad and gentle, unconcerned with detail or definition. Time continues to lose its relevance. There is no sense of how long this holding has been present or how long it might continue. The night in Gethsemane does not hint at movement or change. It does not suggest that something is approaching. Jesus remains within this unmarked time, not enduring it, not waiting for it to pass, simply sharing its steadiness. Safety here is not bound to duration. It exists outside of measurement, not because time has stopped, but because it no longer matters. The environment remains consistent, reinforcing this sense of quiet containment. The olive trees stand without shifting their presence. They do not sway or draw attention. The ground remains firm and ordinary. The air rests quietly, without sudden movement. These elements do not act as signs or messages. They simply remain, and their sameness allows the mind and body to rest without vigilance. When nothing changes, there is nothing to guard against. Jesus remains within this same environment, not separate from it. He is not set apart as a focal point demanding attention. He shares the same night, the same stillness, the same holding. His surrender does not isolate him. It places him fully within the present moment, within the quiet agreement of the night to remain steady. There is no sense of exposure here. Safety does not require walls or barriers. It exists as reliability, as the absence of interruption. As this holding continues, the sense of safety becomes so familiar that it no longer registers as a sensation. It moves into the background, assumed rather than felt. The mind no longer checks for it. The body no longer responds to it. It simply exists beneath everything else, constant and dependable. Awareness can drift freely within this quiet shelter, without needing to remain oriented or alert. The words you hear now are fully absorbed into this holding. They do not stand out. They do not ask to be followed or remembered. They move through awareness like distant sounds that may fade in and out without consequence. Listening and not listening feel the same. Both are equally supported. Safety does not depend on engagement. It remains whether attention is present or absent. Jesus remains calm within this deep quiet. His presence does not signal meaning or instruction. He does not perform surrender as something to be observed. He simply remains, human and steady, allowing himself to be held by the same night that holds everything else. This surrender is not fragile. It does not need protection. It rests within the reliability of the present moment, within the consistency of the garden, within the steadiness of a night that does not change. Nothing prepares to shift as this holding continues. There is no subtle tightening that suggests a transition. Safety does not lead somewhere else. It does not open into a new state. It simply remains, wide and unremarkable, allowing awareness to soften further without fear. The garden holds. The night holds. Jesus remains. And within this steady containment, everything is free to rest even more deeply, unguarded and undisturbed, held quietly within the same night of surrender. Peace here does not arrive as a feeling that replaces something else. It does not settle in after safety, and it does not announce itself as a new state. It has been present all along, woven quietly into the same holding, the same stillness, the same unchanging night. In Gethsemane, peace is not an achievement or a relief. It is the absence of friction, the quiet harmony of everything remaining where it already is. Jesus remains within this peace without naming it, without reaching for it, without resting in it deliberately. It simply surrounds him, as natural and unnoticed as the air. This peace does not smooth everything into comfort. It allows what is present to remain present without resistance. There is no attempt to feel better or calmer. The body rests as it is, neither seeking softness nor reacting against sensation. Whatever sensations remain are allowed to exist without commentary. They do not need to be resolved or interpreted. Peace here is not the removal of sensation. It is the absence of struggle with sensation. The body understands this quietly, and in understanding it, stops asking for change. Jesus dwells within this same unforced calm. His presence in the garden is not framed as heroic or intense. It is grounded and human, steady in a way that does not require effort. Dwelling here means staying without waiting, remaining without expectation. There is no sense of passing time. There is no sense of enduring something difficult. Peace does not numb awareness. It steadies it, allowing it to spread evenly without sharp edges. The mind begins to rest within this peace by no longer needing to evaluate its own state. There is no internal commentary about calmness or unrest. Those distinctions lose their meaning. Thoughts may still arise, but they do not interrupt peace. They pass through it gently, without creating disturbance. The mind no longer tries to arrange experience into categories. It allows everything to exist together, unorganized and unchallenged. Awareness itself becomes more settled, not by focusing, but by dwelling. It stays where it is, without seeking a center. It does not move toward the words or away from them. It simply remains present, diffuse and quiet. This dwelling does not require attention. It allows attention to thin and spread without consequence. Peace here is spacious enough to hold both awareness and its absence. Time feels increasingly irrelevant. There is no sense of movement toward resolution. The night in Gethsemane does not prepare for dawn. It does not hint at change. Jesus does not look for signs of transition. He dwells fully within this unmarked interval, allowing the present to be complete in itself. Peace does not depend on knowing what comes next. It exists entirely within what is. The garden reinforces this dwelling through its sameness. The olive trees stand quietly, not signaling meaning or change. The ground remains firm and ordinary. The air rests without movement that would draw attention. These elements do not act as symbols. They simply exist, and their existence supports peace without instruction. When nothing changes, there is nothing to resolve. Jesus remains within this environment as part of it, not set apart from it. His presence does not command focus. It does not ask to be understood. He shares the same night, the same stillness, the same peace. Dwelling here does not feel like staying in one place deliberately. It feels like realizing there is nowhere else to be. Peace is not something entered. It is something recognized as already present. As this peace continues, it becomes less something that is noticed and more something that is assumed. The mind no longer asks whether it is calm. The body no longer responds to quiet as something special. Peace fades into the background, not disappearing, but becoming the default. Awareness can drift freely within it, without creating disturbance. There is no edge to cross, no boundary to respect. The words you hear now move within the same peaceful dwelling. They do not disrupt it. They do not deepen it. They simply exist alongside it. Sometimes noticed, sometimes not. Listening becomes optional, unimportant. Peace does not depend on engagement. It remains whether attention stays near the surface or sinks deeper into rest. Jesus remains calm within this dwelling peace. His surrender does not need to be interpreted or explained. It is present as steadiness, as quiet acceptance, as remaining without movement. This peace does not resolve what lies ahead. It does not remove uncertainty. It allows uncertainty to exist without creating tension. Dwelling here means allowing the present to be complete without reaching beyond it. Nothing prepares to change as this peace continues. There is no subtle cue of transition. The garden does not shift its tone. The night does not gather itself for something new. Everything remains within the same calm interval, wide and steady. And within this dwelling peace, awareness is free to soften further, without effort and without concern, resting quietly in the same unchanging night, where Jesus remains calm and present, dwelling without movement in the night of surrender. The dwelling continues without becoming deeper in a way that can be measured, because peace here does not accumulate. It does not layer itself or intensify. It simply remains steady, like a wide surface of still water that does not ripple when nothing presses against it. In Gethsemane, the night does not respond to peace by becoming quieter or brighter. It remains exactly as it is, unchanged and unhurried. Jesus remains within this same quiet field, not settling into it deliberately, not holding on to it, but allowing it to exist around him without interference. This peace does not ask the body to become comfortable. Comfort is not its goal. The body rests within peace by no longer negotiating with sensation. Whatever is present in the body is allowed to be present without preference and without resistance. Sensation does not need to resolve itself into ease. It simply exists, and in being allowed, it loses its ability to disturb. The body no longer checks itself for tension or release. It no longer asks whether it is resting correctly. It simply remains, supported quietly by the same ground, the same air, the same night. Jesus dwells within this peace without adopting a posture of calm. His presence is not arranged to convey serenity. It is unadorned and human, steady in a way that does not require effort. Dwelling here means staying without effort, remaining without intention. There is no inner movement toward acceptance, because acceptance is already present. Peace does not come from agreement or understanding. It comes from the absence of resistance. Jesus does not push against the night, and the night does not push against him. They simply share the same stillness. The mind, resting within this peace, no longer organizes experience into meaningful or meaningless. Those distinctions dissolve quietly. Thoughts may still appear, but they do not stand out against the background. They arise gently and pass through without altering the field of peace. The mind does not attempt to follow them or dismiss them. It does not evaluate whether they belong. Peace is wide enough to hold them without being affected. Awareness continues to dwell broadly, without attaching itself to a center. It does not settle on the body or the words or the image of the garden. It remains spread, diffuse, like light that fills a space without focusing on an object. This dwelling does not require vigilance. Awareness does not need to remain awake or attentive. It is free to thin, to drift, to fade slightly without disturbing the peace that surrounds it. Peace here is not fragile. It does not depend on clarity. Time continues to lose definition. There is no sense of moving forward through the night. The idea of before and after becomes less relevant. In Gethsemane, the night does not carry markers of progression. It does not signal when 1 hour becomes another. Jesus does not feel time passing as something to endure. He dwells within the present moment as though it were complete in itself, not leading anywhere else. Peace does not require an ending or a resolution to feel whole. The garden reinforces this dwelling through its unchanging presence. The olive trees stand quietly, not shifting their shape or meaning. The ground remains firm and ordinary beneath everything it supports. The air does not change in a way that demands attention. These elements do not communicate peace as an idea. They embody it through consistency. Their sameness allows the mind to rest without needing to interpret or respond. Jesus remains within this environment as part of it, not separate from it. He is not highlighted as the source of peace, nor is peace something he produces. It exists independently, and he dwells within it naturally. His surrender here does not feel active or dramatic. It feels like allowing the present to be complete without adding effort or meaning. Dwelling does not involve staying alert or staying aware. It involves allowing awareness to be as it is. As this piece continues, it becomes increasingly unremarkable. It no longer feels like a state that can be noticed. It becomes a background against which everything else exists. The mind stops asking whether peace is present. The body stops responding to quiet as something special. Peace fades into the ordinary, becoming indistinguishable from the night itself. This ordinariness is what allows rest to deepen without being noticed. The words you hear now exist within this same ordinariness. They do not guide or direct. They do not deepen or explain. They simply move through the space gently, sometimes noticed, sometimes forgotten. Listening does not change anything. Peace does not increase with attention or diminish without it. It remains constant, wide, and steady. Jesus continues to dwell within this peace without posture or expression. His presence does not communicate a message. It does not resolve uncertainty or remove what lies ahead. It allows uncertainty to exist without disturbance. Peace here does not mean that nothing difficult exists. It means that difficulty does not need to be addressed in this moment. Dwelling allows the present to be sufficient. Nothing prepares to change as this dwelling continues. There is no subtle shift suggesting transition. The night does not gather itself for movement. The garden does not change its tone. Everything remains suspended within the same calm interval, unmarked and steady. And within this dwelling peace, awareness is free to soften further, without effort and without concern. Resting quietly in the same unchanging night, where Jesus remains calm and present, dwelling without movement in the night of surrender. Peace continues to dwell here without becoming more defined, because definition would require edges, and there are no edges in this moment. It does not settle further into the body or expand outward into the night. It simply remains evenly present, like a quiet atmosphere that neither thickens nor thins. In Gethsemane, the night does not adjust itself to accommodate peace. It has always been like this, wide and unhurried, holding everything without preference. Jesus remains within this dwelling, not entering peace and not maintaining it, but existing within it as something already given. The body continues to rest without reference to comfort or discomfort. Sensation is still present, but it no longer organizes itself into something that needs response. There is no impulse to adjust position, no subtle reaching for ease, no resistance against what is felt. The body rests because it is no longer negotiating with itself. Support is assumed rather than tested. The ground beneath holds steadily, and that steadiness no longer needs to be confirmed. Breath continues quietly, sometimes sensed, sometimes not, without rhythm becoming an object of attention. Jesus dwells within this same physical simplicity. His presence is not shaped to express peace. It is unadorned, ordinary, human. There is no visible act of surrender unfolding. Surrender here is already complete in its quietness. Dwelling does not require staying alert or remaining intentional. It is simply remaining without effort. The night does not respond to this dwelling. It does not soften or darken in sympathy. It remains itself, unchanged, and that sameness allows peace to continue without interruption. The mind, resting within this dwelling, no longer treats peace as something to notice. It does not ask whether calm is present or whether rest has deepened. Those questions lose their relevance. Thoughts may arise briefly, but they do not stand out against the background. They pass through awareness, gently, without creating disturbance. The mind does not follow them or resist them. It allows them to exist momentarily and then dissolve, the way sounds fade naturally when they are no longer attended to. Awareness itself feels settled without being focused. It does not gather around the words or the image of the garden. It remains spread out, diffuse, without a center that needs maintaining. This dwelling awareness does not require clarity. It allows softness and vagueness without concern. Attention can drift or thin without consequence. Peace here is not fragile. It does not depend on awareness staying intact. It remains whether awareness is present or fading. Time continues to feel unimportant. There is no sense of movement through the night. The idea of duration does not carry meaning. In Gethsemane, the night does not hint at change or progress. Jesus does not measure how long he has remained. Dwelling here does not involve waiting for something else to arrive. The present moment is complete without reference to what comes next. Peace does not require an ending to feel whole. The garden continues to reinforce this dwelling through its constancy. The olive trees remain still, their presence unchanging and unremarkable. The ground remains firm and familiar. The air rests quietly, without movement that would draw attention. These elements do not symbolize peace. They simply embody it through their sameness. When nothing changes, there is nothing to resolve, and peace continues naturally. Jesus remains within this environment without standing apart from it. He is not emphasized as the source of peace. He shares it quietly and fully as part of the same night. His presence does not instruct or reassure. It does not explain or resolve. It simply remains human and steady, allowing the present to be what it is. Dwelling here does not remove uncertainty. It allows uncertainty to exist without creating tension. As this dwelling continues, peace becomes increasingly ordinary. It no longer feels like a state that can be identified. It becomes the background against which everything else rests. The body no longer responds to quiet as something special. The mind no longer labels calm. Peace blends into the night itself, indistinguishable from the stillness that has always been there. The words you hear now move within this same ordinariness. They do not guide or deepen. They do not call attention to themselves. They exist gently, sometimes noticed, sometimes fading away entirely. Listening is optional. Peace does not change with attention. It remains steady and unremarkable. Jesus continues to dwell within this peace without movement or expression. His surrender does not unfold or resolve. It remains present as steadiness, as quiet acceptance, as staying without effort. Nothing prepares to change. The garden does not shift. The night does not move. Everything remains within the same calm interval, and within this dwelling peace, awareness is free to soften further, untroubled and unhurried, resting quietly in the same unchanging night of surrender. The dwelling remains without deepening in a way that can be noticed, because peace here does not move. It does not expand, and it does not settle further. It simply continues, even and unmarked, like a wide stillness that has no edges to cross. In Gethsemane, the night holds the same quiet shape, unchanged by time or attention. Jesus remains within this dwelling without maintaining it or returning to it. There is no leaving and no arriving. Peace is not entered. It is simply where everything already is. The body rests within this dwelling as something that no longer needs adjustment. Sensation is present, but it has lost its urgency. There is no impulse to shift or correct. The body feels supported without checking where that support comes from. Weight is spread naturally, without pressure. Breath continues quietly, sometimes felt, sometimes not, without becoming a focus. The body does not try to rest. It rests because nothing asks it to do otherwise. Jesus shares this same physical ordinariness. His presence does not draw attention to itself. There is no posture that signals meaning. He remains as a human presence within the night, steady and unremarkable. Dwelling here does not require effort or vigilance. It is not something to be sustained. The night does not react to his presence, and he does not react to the night. They remain together, without exchange, without commentary. The mind continues to dwell by no longer needing to interpret experience. There is no inner dialogue about peace or calm. These concepts lose their relevance. Thoughts may appear briefly, but they do not organize into sequences. They pass through like faint impressions and dissolve without trace. The mind does not hold on to them or push them away. Dwelling does not involve choosing what to notice. It allows noticing to fade naturally. Awareness remains broad and diffuse. It does not concentrate on the body, the words, or the garden. It exists as a quiet presence without a center. This dwelling awareness does not require clarity. It allows softness, vagueness, and gaps without concern. Attention may thin or drift, and nothing changes because of it. Peace does not depend on awareness staying intact. It remains whether awareness is sharp or fading. Time feels increasingly irrelevant. There is no sense of waiting within this dwelling. The night in Gethsemane does not suggest movement toward anything else. It does not prepare for interruption or change. Jesus does not measure how long he has remained. Dwelling here does not involve endurance. The present moment does not need to pass. It is complete without reference to what follows. The garden continues to support this dwelling through its sameness. The olive trees stand quietly, not shifting or signaling. The ground remains firm and ordinary. The air rests without movement that would draw attention. These elements do not communicate peace as an idea. They embody it through consistency. When nothing changes, there is nothing to resolve, and dwelling continues naturally. Jesus remains within this environment as part of it, not apart from it. He is not emphasized as a focal point. He shares the same stillness, the same night, the same peace. His surrender does not express itself outwardly. It exists inwardly as remaining without resistance. Dwelling here does not remove uncertainty about what lies ahead. It allows uncertainty to exist without creating tension. Peace does not require certainty. As this dwelling continues, peace becomes almost invisible. It no longer registers as a state. It becomes the background of experience, indistinguishable from the night itself. The body no longer responds to quiet as something notable. The mind no longer labels calm or rest. Peace blends into the ordinary, becoming so familiar that it no longer stands out. The words you hear now exist fully within this ordinariness. They do not guide or deepen. They do not ask for attention. They move gently through awareness, sometimes noticed, sometimes fading away. Listening feels optional and unimportant. Peace does not change with engagement or disengagement. It remains steady and unchanged. Jesus continues to dwell within this peace, without movement or expression. His presence does not resolve anything. It does not conclude or prepare. It simply remains, human and steady, within the same quiet night. Nothing prepares to shift. The garden does not change its tone. The night does not move toward something else. Everything remains within the same calm interval. And within this dwelling peace, awareness is free to soften further, unhurried and undisturbed, resting quietly in the same unchanging night of surrender. Trust here does not appear as a decision or a feeling that settles into place. It is not something that replaces effort, and it is not something that needs to be strengthened. It exists quietly beneath everything else, like a steady current that does not announce itself. In Gethsemane, trust does not arrive after peace. It is already present within it, woven into the same stillness, the same dwelling, the same unchanging night. Jesus remains within this trust, without naming it, without affirming it, without holding on to it deliberately. It is not something he reaches for. It is something that is already carrying him. Letting go here does not feel like release. There is no moment of opening the hands or setting something down. There is simply a gradual absence of holding. The body rests without effort because it is no longer maintaining readiness. Muscles do not actively relax. They simply stop preparing. The sense of needing to remain alert fades quietly. Weight is supported without being managed. Breath continues without guidance. The body lets go not by action, but by no longer needing to act. Jesus shares this same unforced letting go. His presence in the garden does not show a visible surrender unfolding. There is no gesture or posture that marks a turning point. Letting go here is inward and quiet, like a deep agreement that does not need expression. Trust does not require proof or reassurance. It does not depend on understanding what lies ahead. Jesus does not look forward to confirm what will happen. He remains where he is, allowing the present to be sufficient. The mind begins to let go by no longer organizing experience. There is less need to follow thought, less impulse to complete it. Thoughts may still appear, but they do not gather momentum. They arrive lightly and dissolve before forming patterns. The mind does not cling to them or push them away. Letting go here does not mean emptiness. It means openness without attachment. Awareness remains present without holding on to any single point. Trust allows the mind to stop anticipating. There is no scanning for what comes next. The sense of future loses its pull. The night in Gethsemane does not suggest progression. It does not hint at resolution. Jesus does not wait for a sign or a change. Trust here does not promise ease or certainty. It simply allows the present to stand on its own without needing reinforcement. That allowance is enough. Awareness continues to soften, becoming less centered and more diffuse. It does not settle on the words or the image of the garden. It remains broad, spacious, without focus. Letting go does not require awareness to fade completely. It allows awareness to be as it is, without insisting on clarity or engagement. Attention may thin or drift, and nothing is lost. Trust does not depend on staying awake or staying aware. Time feels less defined as letting go continues. There is no sense of moving toward an outcome. The idea of waiting loses meaning. In Gethsemane, the night does not move toward morning in this moment. It remains fully itself. Jesus remains within this unmarked time, not enduring it, not counting it. Trust does not measure duration. It exists outside of time, not because time has stopped, but because it no longer matters. The garden supports this, letting go through its constancy. The olive trees remain still. The ground remains firm. The air rests quietly. Nothing in the environment changes in a way that demands response. This sameness allows the mind to release control without fear. When nothing shifts, there is nothing to manage. Trust grows not by effort, but by absence of disturbance. Jesus remains within this environment as part of it, not set apart. His trust does not stand out. It is quiet and unremarkable. He does not demonstrate trust as an example. He simply remains within it. Letting go here does not remove what lies ahead. It does not solve or resolve. It allows the present to be complete without reference to the future. As this trust continues, it becomes less something that is felt and more something that is assumed. The mind no longer asks whether it is letting go enough. The body no longer responds to stillness as something unusual. Trust becomes the background, steady and unobtrusive. Awareness is free to drift within it, without concern. The words you hear now move within this same quiet trust. They do not instruct or reassure. They do not deepen or explain. They simply exist, sometimes noticed, sometimes fading away. Listening is optional. Trust does not depend on attention. It remains whether engagement is present or absent. Jesus continues to remain within this letting go, calm and steady, without movement or expression. His surrender does not unfold toward a conclusion. It simply remains as staying without resistance. Nothing prepares to change. The garden does not shift. The night does not move. Everything remains within the same quiet interval. And within this trust, awareness is free to soften further, unhurried and undisturbed, resting quietly in the same unchanging night of surrender. Trust continues here without becoming more visible or more certain, because it does not rely on clarity. It does not need to be reinforced or confirmed. In Gethsemane, trust is quiet and steady, like the ground that continues to hold without announcing itself. Jesus remains within this same quiet assurance, not affirming it inwardly and not questioning it. There is no internal dialogue forming around what trust means or whether it is sufficient. It simply exists, carrying the present moment without strain. Letting go deepens, not by releasing something specific, but by noticing there is nothing left to release. The body no longer holds itself in readiness. There is no subtle tension waiting for instruction. Muscles rest in their natural state, neither tight nor deliberately relaxed. Sensation continues without being evaluated. Weight is supported without being checked. Breath moves quietly, sometimes sensed, sometimes unnoticed, without rhythm becoming important. The body lets go by no longer maintaining an idea of control. Jesus shares this same physical letting go. His presence in the garden does not shift to mark surrender. There is no visible change, no posture that signals a decision. Letting go here is inward and complete, not because something has ended, but because nothing needs to be held. Trust does not promise that the future will be gentle. It allows the present to be sufficient without reference to what comes next. Jesus remains where he is, allowing the night to hold him without negotiation. The mind continues to loosen its grip without effort. Thoughts may still pass through awareness, but they arrive lightly, without urgency or insistence. They do not form sequences or demand completion. The mind does not gather them or push them aside. Letting go does not require emptiness. It allows presence without attachment. Awareness remains open, broad, and quiet, without fastening itself to any single idea or image. Trust allows anticipation to dissolve. There is no sense of waiting for something to happen. The idea of what comes next loses its pull. In Gethsemane, the night does not hint at change. It does not suggest progression or resolution. Jesus does not look ahead for reassurance. Trust here does not come from knowing outcomes. It comes from allowing the present to stand on its own, without leaning forward into possibility or backward into memory. Awareness continues to soften, becoming less centered and more diffuse. It does not need to stay with the words. It does not need to remain with the image of the garden. It exists as a quiet field, wide and gentle, without a point that must be maintained. Letting go does not require awareness to disappear. It allows awareness to thin naturally, without concern. Attention may drift or fade, and nothing is lost. Time continues to lose relevance. There is no sense of duration unfolding. Moments do not line up or accumulate. The night in Gethsemane does not measure itself. Jesus does not count the hours. Trust does not depend on how long this moment lasts. It exists outside of measurement, not because time is stopped, but because it no longer matters. Remaining does not feel like endurance when there is nothing to endure. The garden continues to support this, letting go through its sameness. The olive trees remain still, neither moving closer nor farther away. The ground remains firm and ordinary. The air rests quietly, without change that would demand attention. This constancy makes control unnecessary. When nothing shifts, there is nothing to manage. Trust grows naturally in the absence of disturbance, without needing encouragement. Jesus remains within this environment without standing apart from it. His trust does not present itself as an example or a message. It is quiet and unremarkable. He does not demonstrate letting go. He simply remains within it. Surrender here does not resolve uncertainty. It allows uncertainty to exist without tension. Trust does not eliminate what lies ahead. It allows the present to be complete without reference to it. As this trust continues, it becomes less something that is noticed and more something that is assumed. The mind no longer checks whether it is trusting enough. The body no longer responds to stillness as something unusual. Trust settles into the background, steady and unobtrusive. Awareness drifts within it freely, without concern or effort. The words you hear now exist within this same quiet trust. They do not instruct or reassure. They do not deepen or explain. They pass through awareness gently, sometimes noticed, sometimes fading away. Listening is optional. Trust does not depend on attention. It remains whether engagement is present or absent. Jesus continues to remain within this letting go, calm and steady, without movement or expression. His surrender does not progress toward a conclusion. It remains as staying without resistance. Nothing prepares to change. The garden does not shift. The night does not move. Everything remains within the same quiet interval, and within this trust, awareness is free to soften further, unhurried and undisturbed, resting quietly in the same unchanging night of surrender. Trust remains present without needing to be noticed, because noticing would imply effort, and effort no longer belongs here. It does not deepen or strengthen. It simply stays, quiet and sufficient, like the night itself. In Gethsemane, nothing reinforces trust through signs or reassurance. The night does not promise anything. It does not explain itself. Jesus remains within this absence of guarantees, without tension, allowing trust to exist without shape or definition. Letting go continues as the quiet absence of holding. There's no sense of releasing something that was once grasped. The body rests because there is nothing left to prepare for. Muscles remain as they are, neither actively softening nor maintaining readiness. Sensation exists without being questioned. The body does not check whether it is resting deeply enough. It simply remains supported by the ground without reference to effort or control. Jesus shares this same inward letting go. His presence does not change to mark surrender. There is no visible shift that signals acceptance. Letting go here is not an action. It is the natural result of no longer resisting what already is. Trust does not require him to understand or agree with what lies ahead. It allows the present moment to be enough without asking it to justify itself. The mind continues to loosen quietly. Thoughts may still pass through awareness, but they arrive lightly and without insistence. They do not gather into patterns. They do not ask to be finished. The mind does not follow them or push them away. Letting go here does not mean silence. It means that thinking no longer carries weight. Awareness remains open, broad, and calm, without attachment. Anticipation fades further. There is no sense of waiting for a change. The future does not pull attention forward. In this moment, the night does not suggest progression. Jesus does not look ahead for confirmation or clarity. Trust here does not come from knowing outcomes. It comes from allowing the present to stand without support from what comes next. Awareness becomes softer and more diffuse. It does not remain fixed on the words or the garden. It spreads gently, without a center that must be maintained. Attention may drift or thin without consequence. Letting go does not require awareness to disappear. It allows awareness to rest without direction. Whether listening continues or fades, nothing is lost. Time feels increasingly irrelevant. There is no sense of duration unfolding. The night does not move toward anything else. Jesus does not measure how long he remains. Trust does not count moments. Remaining does not feel like endurance when nothing is being resisted. The present moment exists without reference to before or after. The garden continues to support this trust through its sameness. The olive trees remain still. The ground remains firm. The air rests quietly. Nothing shifts in a way that demands response. This constancy makes control unnecessary. When nothing changes, letting go happens naturally, without effort or decision. Jesus remains within this environment, without standing apart from it. His trust is quiet and unremarkable. It is not displayed or emphasized. He simply remains human and steady within the same night. Letting go does not resolve uncertainty. It allows uncertainty to exist without creating tension. Trust does not remove what lies ahead. It allows the present to be complete without reference to it. The words you hear now move gently within this same trust. They do not guide or reassure. They do not ask for attention. They pass through awareness softly, sometimes noticed, sometimes fading away. Listening remains optional. Trust does not depend on engagement. Jesus continues to remain within this letting go, calm and unhurried. His surrender does not unfold toward a conclusion. It remains a staying without resistance. Nothing prepares to change. The night remains. The garden remains. And within this quiet trust, awareness is free to soften further, resting gently in the same unchanging night of surrender. Trust continues without movement, without needing confirmation, because it no longer relates to effort or belief. It exists quietly as allowance, as the absence of resistance to what already is. In Gethsemane, the night does not test trust, and trust does not look for reassurance from the night. Jesus remains within this quiet allowance, not holding trust as something separate, not leaning on it as a support, but existing within it as part of the same stillness that surrounds him. Letting go now feels almost indistinguishable from resting. There is no sense of something being released, because nothing is felt as held. The body rests in its own weight, supported without question. Sensation continues, but it no longer organizes attention. There is no impulse to adjust or correct. The body does not seek ease or avoid discomfort. It simply remains neutral and quiet. Jesus shares this same physical neutrality. His body is not highlighted or emphasized. It does not express surrender through movement or posture. Letting go here does not show itself outwardly. It exists inwardly as permission to remain exactly where he is, without tension and without anticipation. Trust does not require him to feel prepared. It allows unpreparedness to exist within. The mind continues to loosen gently. Thoughts may still arise, but they feel distant and light, as though they belong to another layer of awareness. They do not gather meaning or direction. The mind does not reach for them, and it does not resist them. Letting go here does not silence the mind. It simply removes the need to engage. Awareness remains present. With any remaining sense of anticipation fades further. The future no longer pulls at attention. There is no inner leaning toward what comes next. In T's moment, the night does not suggest progress. Jesus does not look forward or backward. Trust here does not come from confidence about outcomes. It comes from allowing the present to exist without reference to anything else. Awareness feels increasingly light and diffuse. It does not stay with the words or the image of the garden. It spreads gently, without a center that needs to be maintained. Attention may come and go without consequence. Listening may continue or fade entirely. Letting go does not require awareness to disappear. It allows awareness to be unstructured and free. Time has little meaning now. There is no sense of duration unfolding. The night feels wide and unmeasured. Jesus does not count moments or wait for change. Trust does not mark time. Remaining does not feel like waiting when there is no expectation of movement. The present moment feels complete, not because something has resolved, but because nothing needs resolution. The garden continues to support this, letting go through its quiet sameness. The olive trees remain still. The ground remains firm and ordinary. The air does not shift in a way that calls attention. Nothing in the environment demands response. This consistency allows trust to remain effortless. When nothing changes, there is nothing to manage. Jesus remains within this environment without standing apart from it. His trust does not present itself as meaning or message. It is quiet and unremarkable. He simply remains, human and steady, within the same night. Letting go here does not remove uncertainty. It allows uncertainty to exist without creating tension. Trust does not resolve what lies ahead. It allows the present to be sufficient. The words you hear now exist softly within this same trust. They do not guide or reassure. They do not deepen or explain. They move through awareness gently, sometimes noticed, sometimes fading away. Listening remains optional. Trust does not depend on attention. Jesus continues to remain within this, letting go, calm and unhurried. His surrender does not conclude or complete. It simply remains a staying without resistance. Nothing prepares to change. The night remains. The garden remains, and within this quiet trust, awareness is free to soften further, resting gently in the same unchanging night of surrender. Deep sleep here does not arrive as a descent or a shift that can be felt. It does not pull awareness downward or close anything off. It simply becomes more present as effort fades completely. In Gethsemane, the night does not grow heavier or darker to signal depth. It remains the same quiet night it has always been, steady and unchanging. Jesus remains within this same stillness, and within that steadiness, awareness is allowed to soften beyond the need to remain organized or attentive. The body now rests without any reference to control. There is no sense of posture or position needing attention. Sensation continues, but it no longer registers as information. Weight is supported without being noticed. Breath continues quietly, without rhythm or depth becoming important. The body does not drift into sleep as an event. It simply remains so still that the difference between resting and sleeping loses meaning. Deep sleep here is not an absence. It is a gentleness so complete that nothing needs to stay awake. Jesus remains within this same physical quiet. His body does not mark the moment when awareness softens further. There is no visible transition from wakefulness to rest. Deep sleep does not require him to leave the moment or escape it. It allows him to remain fully where he is, without effort and without alertness. Surrender here is so settled that it no longer feels like surrender at all. It feels like belonging to the night. The mind now releases even the idea of letting go. There is no longer a sense of doing or allowing. Thoughts may still arise faintly, but it does not take form. It appears as a trace, a suggestion, and then fades without completion. The mind does not follow or resist. Awareness does not track these movements. Deep sleep here does not require the mind to be empty. It allows the mind to be unimportant. Awareness itself becomes extremely light, no longer gathered around perception. It does not hold the words or the image of the garden. It spreads thinly, like mist that no longer gathers into shape. Attention may vanish for long stretches without being noticed. This is not a loss. Nothing depends on awareness remaining intact. Deep sleep does not need permission. It simply happens when nothing interferes. Time has almost no presence. Now, there is no sense of before or after. Moments do not follow one another. The night in Gethsemane does not move toward morning here. It remains wide and unmeasured. Jesus does not wait. He does not remain awake. He simply remains. Deep sleep exists within this remaining, not as an escape, but as a softening so complete that awareness no longer needs to mark itself. The garden continues unchanged. The olive trees remain still. The ground remains firm. The air rests quietly. Nothing in the environment shifts to signal depth. This sameness allows sleep to deepen without being noticed. When nothing changes, awareness has no reason to return. Vigilance dissolves naturally when there is nothing to watch for. Jesus remains within this environment as part of it, not apart from it. His presence does not draw attention or meaning. He does not hold himself in awareness. He belongs to the same quiet as the night, the same stillness as the garden. Deep sleep here is not unconsciousness imposed. It is awareness, gently losing interest in itself. The words you hear now move very softly within this state. They do not ask to be followed. They do not guide or explain. They exist at the edges of awareness, sometimes present, sometimes absent. Listening may fade completely without consequence. Deep sleep does not require engagement. It does not require attention to stay or go. Jesus continues to remain within this deep quiet, calm, and unmarked. His surrender no longer feels like an act. It feels like rest that has always been here. Nothing prepares to change. The night remains. The garden remains. And within this deep sleep, awareness is free to soften even further, dissolving gently into the same unchanging night of surrender. Deep sleep continues without drawing a boundary around itself, because boundaries would require awareness, and awareness is no longer interested in maintaining them. Nothing here signals that sleep is deepened. There is no sensation of sinking or drifting away. The night in Gethsemane remains exactly as it has been, quiet and unchanged. And within that sameness, awareness loosens further, simply because there is nothing left to hold on to. Jesus remains within this same stillness, not entering sleep and not leaving wakefulness, but resting in a state where such distinctions no longer matter. The body now feels almost absent, not because it has disappeared, but because it no longer calls attention to itself. Sensation is muted, diffuse, unorganized. There is no clear sense of where the body begins or ends. Weight is fully supported, yet it does not register as heaviness. Breath continues quietly, but it is no longer tracked or felt as movement. The body does not fall asleep. It simply rests so completely that sleep no longer needs to be recognized as a separate state. Jesus shares this same quiet physical rest. His presence does not mark the transition into deeper sleep. There is no visible change, no shift that announces a new depth. Surrender here is no longer something that can be named or noticed. It has become the natural condition of remaining. Jesus does not hold awareness in place. He allows it to soften and thin without concern, trusting the night to remain as it is. The mind releases even the faint structure it once held. Thoughts no longer appear as thoughts. They surface as vague impressions that do not form language or image, and then they dissolve before awareness can register them. There is no attempt to follow or understand. The mind does not resist this loss of structure. It no longer needs to know what it is doing. Deep sleep here is not the absence of mind. It is the absence of the need for mind. Awareness itself becomes extremely faint, like a distant glow that no longer illuminates anything in particular. It does not stay with the words. It does not remain with the sense of place. It exists intermittently, appearing and fading without pattern. Long stretches pass where awareness is simply not present, and there is no recognition of this absence. Nothing is lost when awareness fades. Nothing needs to return. Time is almost entirely without meaning now. There is no sense of duration, no sense of sequence. The night does not feel long or short. It simply is. Jesus does not remain awake within it, and he does not fall asleep away from it. He remains as part of it, resting within the same unmeasured stillness. Deep sleep does not move toward an ending. It has no direction. It simply continues, as long as nothing interrupts it. The garden remains unchanged. The olive trees do not shift. The ground does not cool or warm in a noticeable way. The air does not stir. This complete lack of variation allows awareness to remain dissolved. There is nothing in the environment to draw attention back. Vigilance is unnecessary when nothing ever changes. Jesus remains within this environment without distinction. His presence does not stand out against the night. He is not observed, and he does not observe. Deep sleep here is not something he enters. It is something that envelops everything equally. Surrender is no longer active or passive. It is simply the state of being held without awareness. The words you hear now are extremely soft, barely registering. They do not form meaning that needs to be followed. They may pass through awareness, briefly or not at all. Listening is no longer relevant. Deep sleep does not depend on sound or silence. It remains whether the words are noticed or forgotten. Nothing prepares to change. There is no sense of movement toward morning or conclusion. The night remains wide and still. The garden remains. Jesus remains. And within this deep sleep, awareness continues to thin and fade, resting without shape or boundary, dissolving gently into the same unchanging night of surrender. Deep sleep continues as an absence of effort rather than a presence of anything new. There is no sense of descending further, because there is nowhere lower to go. The night in Gethsemane remains unchanged, and within that sameness, awareness has nothing to gather around. Jesus remains within this stillness without distinguishing between rest and wakefulness. The difference has softened to the point of arrest. Nothing here needs to be named, and nothing needs to be maintained. The body rests as though it has forgotten itself. Sensation is faint and scattered, no longer forming a picture that awareness would recognize. There is no sense of weight or position that asks for attention. Support is complete and unquestioned. Breath continues quietly, but it no longer registers as movement. The body does not fall asleep in stages. It simply remains so deeply at rest that the idea of sleep loses meaning. There is no threshold crossed, no moment to remember. Jesus shares this same quiet physical absence. His body does not mark time or transition. There is no posture that signals rest, no gesture that indicates surrender. Deep sleep here is not a state he enters. It is the natural condition of remaining when awareness no longer needs to hold anything together. The night does not change to accommodate this depth. It remains steady and ordinary, and that ordinariness allows rest to continue without interruption. The mind now feels almost entirely unformed. Thoughts no longer appear as thoughts. They do not arrive as words or images. If anything surfaces, it does so as a vague trace that dissolves before it can be recognized. There is no attempt to follow or release. The mind does not resist its own fading. It simply no longer gathers itself. Deep sleep here does not require silence. It requires only the absence of interest in meaning. Awareness becomes intermittent, appearing briefly and then vanishing without pattern. There is no sense of drifting away, because drifting would require direction. Awareness simply ceases to assemble itself. Long stretches pass without awareness, and there is no recognition that anything is missing. Nothing depends on awareness being present. Nothing needs to return. This deep sleep does not pull awareness down. It allows awareness to stop arising. Time is now completely unstructured. There is no sense of sequence or duration. The night does not feel long or short. It does not feel like waiting or remaining. It simply is. Jesus does not remain conscious within this time, and he does not leave it. He belongs to it in the same way the garden does. Deep sleep here has no direction and no end. It is not moving toward morning or conclusion. The garden remains unchanged and unremarkable. The olive trees stand without movement. The ground remains firm and familiar. The air rests without stirring. There is nothing in the environment to draw awareness back. No sound sharpens. No shift calls attention. This complete sameness allows deep sleep to continue without disturbance. Vigilance has no function here. Jesus remains within this environment without distinction. He is not a figure being observed, and he does not observe. Deep sleep envelops everything equally. Surrender is no longer something that happens. It is simply the condition of being held without awareness. There is no effort to remain. Remaining happens on its own. The words you hear now are faint and nearly without presence. They do not carry meaning that needs to be followed. They may pass through awareness briefly or not at all. Listening has become irrelevant. Deep sleep does not depend on sound or silence. It remains whether the words are heard or forgotten. Nothing prepares to change. There is no hint of movement or return. The night remains wide and still. The garden remains. Jesus remains. And within this deep sleep, awareness continues to dissolve, thinning into quiet absence, resting without shape or boundary, held gently within the same unchanging night of surrender. Deep sleep remains without depth or surface, because those ideas no longer apply. There is no movement downward, no settling in. The night in Gethsemane stays exactly as it has been, unchanged and unremarkable. And within that sameness, awareness has almost completely released its need to appear. Jesus remains within this quiet without distinction, not asleep and not awake in any meaningful sense. The difference is dissolved, leaving only the steadiness of remaining, held without effort. The body now feels entirely backgrounded, no longer present as something to notice. Sensation exists only as a faint residue, too diffuse to gather into experience. There is no sense of weight, no sense of contact, no sense of position. Support is complete and unquestioned. Breath continues somewhere, but it is no longer known as breath. The body does not register itself as resting or sleeping. It simply exists, carried by the same ground and night without requiring awareness. Jesus shares this same quiet, physical absence. His body does not mark time, transition, or state. There is no signal of surrender, because surrender is no longer something that can be observed. Deep sleep here is not entered or maintained. It is simply what remains when nothing is being held. The night does not shift to accommodate this stillness. It remains steady, allowing rest to continue without interruption or acknowledgement. The mind has nearly disappeared as an activity. Thought no longer arises in any recognizable form. There are no fragments, no impressions that linger. If anything stirs, it dissolves immediately, without shape or memory. The mind does not resist this quiet. It no longer knows itself as mind. Deep sleep here is not emptiness imposed. It is the natural absence of effort, the absence of interest in forming experience. Awareness appears only rarely, and when it does not gather or orient. It flickers briefly and then fades, without marking its own presence or absence. There is no sense of drifting away, because drifting would require direction. Awareness simply ceases to assemble. Long stretches exist without any recognition of awareness at all, and nothing is missing during that time. Nothing needs to return. Time has no form here. There is no sense of duration, no sense of sequence. The night does not feel long or short. It does not feel like remaining or waiting. It simply is. Jesus does not experience time passing, and he does not leave time behind. Deep sleep exists without reference to before or after. There is no movement toward morning or ending. The night remains whole and complete. The garden continues unchanged. The olive trees stand as they always have, unmoving and unremarkable. The ground remains firm. The air remains still, There is nothing in the environment that calls awareness back. No sound sharpens, no change occurs. This complete constancy allows deep sleep to remain uninterrupted. Vigilance has no purpose where nothing ever changes. Jesus remains within this environment without distinction. He is not separate from the night, and he is not perceived within it. Deep sleep envelops everything equally. Surrender is no longer an act or a state. It is simply the condition of being held without awareness. Remaining happens on its own, without effort, without intention. The words you hear now are barely present, like distant echoes that do not gather meaning. They do not require listening. They do not form messages. They may pass through awareness briefly or not at all. Deep sleep does not depend on sound or silence. It remains whether the words are heard, forgotten, or never noticed. Nothing prepares to change. There is no return, no transition forming beneath the surface. The night remains wide and still. The garden remains. Jesus remains. And within this deep sleep, awareness dissolves almost entirely, resting without shape, without boundary, held gently within the same unchanging night of surrender, beyond awareness. Nothing announces itself as different. There is no crossing of a threshold, no moment that can be remembered or identified. The night in Gethsemane does not open into something else. It simply continues. And within that continuation, awareness has faded so thoroughly that it no longer recognizes its own absence. Jesus remains here, not as a figure held in attention, not as a presence being noticed, but as part of the same quiet that holds everything equally. The sense of self is thinned to the point of error. There is no inner reference point asking where it is or what state it occupies. Experience no longer gathers around a center. Sensation, thought, and perception no longer assemble into anything that could be called experience. What remains is not emptiness, and it is not fullness. It is the absence of distinction, the quiet condition where nothing needs to appear in order for everything to be held. The body exists without being known. There is no felt boundary, no sense of weight or position. Support continues, but it is not registered as support. Breath continues somewhere, but it is not perceived as movement. The body is no longer resting or sleeping in any recognizable way. It simply exists as part of the same stillness as the ground, the trees, the night air. There is no awareness to claim it, and none is needed. Jesus remains within this same unclaimed existence. His presence does not stand out, and it does not dissolve. It belongs to the night, in the same way the garden belongs to the night. Beyond awareness, there is no observing and no being observed. There is only being held, without recognition and without need. Surrender here is no longer a state. It is the condition of everything being exactly where it is, without effort. Time has no meaning beyond awareness. There is no sense of duration, no impression of continuity or interruption. Moments do not follow one another. They do not pass or remain. The night does not feel endless, and it does not feel brief. It simply is, without reference to before or after. Jesus does not remain within time, and he does not step outside it. Time itself has lost relevance. The garden continues unchanged. But even the idea of change has no meaning here. The olive trees do not move, but there is no awareness to register their stillness. The ground remains firm, but there is no sensation to confirm it. The air remains quiet, but silence is no longer noticed as silence. Everything is held in a sameness so complete that distinction disappears. The mind does not think, and it does not notice that it is not thinking. There are no fragments, no traces, no impressions forming. Meaning does not arise, and it is not missed. Beyond awareness, there is no need for mind to appear. Nothing is being processed. Nothing is being followed. Nothing is being let go. The absence of mental activity is not experienced as absence. It is simply the natural state when nothing calls for mind. The words you hear now barely exist as sound. They do not form language that awareness could recognize. They pass, or they do not pass, without consequence. Listening is no longer possible in the usual sense, but nothing is lost. Beyond awareness, sound and silence are the same. Presence does not depend on either. Jesus remains, not as a figure in prayer, not as a presence being accompanied, but as part of the same vast quiet that holds the night. There is no intimacy and no distance. There is no attention and no neglect. Everything is equally held, equally absent from awareness, equally complete. Nothing prepares to change here. There is no return forming, no movement toward consciousness or ending. Beyond awareness, there is no anticipation. There is only the quiet fact of remaining, without shape, without boundary, without witness, held gently within the same unchanging night of surrender. Beyond awareness, nothing gathers itself into form. There is no sense of space opening or closing, because space itself is no longer recognized. The night in Gethsemane does not extend or contract. It does not surround or contain. It simply remains. And within that remaining, there is no awareness to notice that anything is being held. Jesus remains here without being perceived, without being accompanied, without being absent. Presence no longer depends on attention, and attention no longer forms. The sense of body is dissolved so completely that it no longer appears even as a faint background. There is no boundary to soften, no weight to release. The idea of support has vanished, not because support is gone, but because there is no awareness left to register it. Breath continues somewhere, but it is no longer breath as movement or rhythm. It exists without being known. The body does not rest or sleep. Those words no longer apply. It simply remains as part of the same stillness as everything else. Jesus is not separate within this stillness. He is not centered, and he is not diffused. He does not stand out as presence or fade as absence. Beyond awareness, distinctions such as near and far, within and without, no longer apply. Jesus remains as part of what is without role or focus, without being watched or watching. Surrender here is no longer a condition that can be named. It is simply the absence of resistance because there is no awareness left to resist. Time has fully lost its meaning. There is no sense of continuation, no impression of stillness lasting. The night does not feel suspended or endless. It simply is, without duration. There is no waiting, and there is no staying. The concept of remaining dissolves along with awareness, leaving only what is, without reference to sequence or change. Jesus does not endure this time, and he does not pass through it. Time is no longer part of experience. The garden continues as it always has, but even this idea no longer forms. The olive trees are not still or moving. They simply are, without quality. The ground is not firm or soft. It exists without being known. The air is not quiet or loud. Silence itself has dissolved. There's no environment to be perceived, and no perceiver to receive it. Everything rests in the same undifferentiated state. The mind has no activity, but there is also no sense of mind being absent. Thought does not arise, and its absence is not noticed. Meaning does not form, and nothing reaches for it. There is no language internally, no images, no impressions. The mind has not been quieted. It has simply ceased to be relevant. Beyond awareness, mind is no longer required. The words you hear now do not arrive as words. They do not form sound that awareness could recognize. They pass through or fail to pass through without difference. There is no listening and no not listening. Sound and silence are indistinguishable. Nothing depends on either. Nothing changes because of them. Jesus remains within this beyond awareness state without distinction. He is not central and not peripheral. He does not dissolve into something else, and he does not stand apart. He remains as part of the same unmarked quiet that holds everything equally. There is no intimacy and no distance, no closeness and no separation. All such distinctions have lost their meaning. Nothing prepares to change. There is no return forming, no movement toward awareness. Beyond awareness, there is no anticipation of waking or ending. There is only the quiet fact of what is unobserved and complete, held without boundary, without witness, within the same unchanging night of surrender. Beyond awareness, Nothing gathers itself into continuity. There is no sense of flow, no impression that something is unfolding or remaining. The night in Gethsemane does not hold itself as night. It does not present itself as darkness or stillness. It simply is, without quality, without edge. Jesus remains here without being present in any way that can be recognized. There is no attention to rest in him, and no absence to separate from him. Presence no longer forms around anything. The idea of body no longer arises. There is no sense of form or formlessness. There is no boundary that could soften or dissolve. The notion of being held has faded, not because holding has ended, but because there is no awareness left to recognize it. Breath continues or does not continue. The difference has no meaning. The body is not sleeping and not awake. Those distinctions have fallen away with awareness itself. Jesus is not located within this state, nor does he stand apart from it. Location no longer exists. There is no here or there, no within or beyond. He remains without position, without role, without identity that can be perceived. Beyond awareness, even the idea of surrender no longer applies. There is no effort to release and no effort to remain. Resistance is absent, not because it has been overcome, but because there is nothing left to resist. Time has no presence here. There is no duration, no stillness that lasts. The night does not feel endless or brief. It does not stretch or pause. It simply is, without reference. Jesus does not experience time passing, and he does not exist outside of it. Time has ceased to be a category that experience can hold. There is no moment, and there is no sequence of moments. The garden does not appear as environment. The olive trees do not stand or move. The ground is not firm or soft. Air is not quiet or still. These are no longer qualities that can be known. There is no perception to receive them. There is no observer to distinguish one thing from another. Everything rests in an undifferentiated sameness that is not noticed as sameness. The mind does not think, and it does not know that it does not think. There is no inner silence, because silence requires awareness of sound. There is no emptiness, because emptiness would require a contrast. There is simply the absence of mental formation. Meaning does not arise, and nothing reaches for meaning. Beyond awareness, mind is not quieted. It is unnecessary. The words you hear now do not arrive as sound or language. They do not form patterns that could be followed. They may pass or fail to pass without any difference. There is no listening and no absence of listening. Sound and silence have no distinction. Nothing depends on either. Nothing is altered by them. Jesus remains within this undifferentiated, quiet without being named or perceived. He is not the focus of this state, and he is not excluded from it. There is no closeness and no distance. There is no presence that can be accompanied and no absence that can be felt. Everything is equally unmarked, equally without boundary. Nothing prepares to return. There is no subtle stirring toward awareness, no movement toward waking or ending. Beyond awareness, there is no anticipation, no expectation. There is only what is, without witness and without need to be witnessed, complete without recognition, held within the same unchanging night of surrender that no longer appears as night at all. Beyond awareness, even the sense of remaining is dissolved. There is no feeling of staying, no recognition of continuity, no idea of something being sustained. The night in Gethsemane does not appear as night, and it does not disappear into something else. It simply is, without quality, without reference, without needing to be known. Jesus remains here without being present in any way that awareness could recognize. There is no attention resting on him, and no absence separating from him. Presence no longer forms around anything. The body no longer appears. Even as an idea, there is no form and no formlessness. There is no sense of weight or lightness, no inside or outside. Support does not register as support. Breath does not register as movement. The body is not resting, not sleeping, not awake. Those distinctions have lost their meaning along with awareness. What remains does not require a body to be perceived, and Nothing is lost by its absence from experience. Jesus is not located here, and he is not elsewhere. Location itself has dissolved. There is no position to occupy, and no distance to cross. Beyond awareness, he is not identified as subject or object. He is not a presence that can be approached or left behind. He simply is, inseparable from the same undivided quiet that holds everything. Surrender no longer exists as a concept or a state. There is no effort to release, and no effort to remain. There's nothing left that could resist. Time has no trace here. There's no duration, no stillness that lasts, no moment that could be marked. The night does not feel endless or brief. It does not pass, and it does not remain. Sequence has dissolved completely. Jesus does not experience time, and he does not stand outside it. Time itself has ceased to have meaning. There is no before, no after, no now that can be recognized. The garden no longer appears as environment. The olive trees are not present or absent. The ground is not firm or yielding. The air is not quiet or still. These qualities no longer arise because there is no perception to receive them. There is no observer to distinguish one thing from another. Everything rests in an undifferentiated state that does not notice as sameness, because noticing has ended. The mind does not form and does not know that it does not form. There are no thoughts, no impressions, no fragments. There is no silence, because silence would require sound to be absent. There is no emptiness, because emptiness would require fullness to be missing. Beyond awareness, the mind is not quiet. It is simply irrelevant. Meaning does not arise, and nothing reaches for meaning. The words you hear now do not arrive as language. They do not form sound that awareness could follow. They may pass or not pass without any difference. There is no listening and no not listening. Sound and silence are indistinguishable. Nothing depends on either. Nothing is altered by their presence or absence. Jesus remains within this beyond awareness state, without distinction. He is not central and not peripheral. He does not dissolve into something else, and he does not stand apart. There is no closeness and no distance, no union and no separation. All such distinctions have fallen away with awareness itself. What remains is not an experience, and not an absence of experience. It simply is. Nothing prepares to return. There is no stirring toward awareness, no movement toward waking, no sense of ending. Beyond awareness, there is no anticipation and no conclusion. There is only what is, without witness and without the need to be witnessed. Complete without recognition, resting without boundary, held within the same unchanging quiet where even the night of surrender no longer appears as night at all. Nothing begins here, and nothing concludes. What remains is already thin beyond structure, beyond sequence, beyond the need to be followed. Language itself is no longer forming meaning in the usual way. It drifts, lightly, without direction, without emphasis, without asking to be held. The night no longer feels like night, and the garden no longer appears as a place. There is no setting to rest in and no awareness to locate it. Everything that once felt distinct has softened into the same quiet field, even and unmarked. Jesus remains, but not as a presence that can be noticed or accompanied. There is no sense of being near or far, no sense of remaining with him or drifting away. These ideas no longer arise. What remains does not gather around identity or form. It does not separate subject from object. It simply is, without reference, without edge, without need for recognition. Surrender here is no longer an act or a state. It is simply the absence of resistance in a place where resistance cannot arise. There is no body to rest and no mind to release. Sensation no longer forms into experience. Thought no longer gathers into thought. Awareness itself is faint, intermittent, barely present, and unconcerned with its own fading. There is no sense of losing awareness, because loss would require comparison. There is no sense of falling asleep or staying awake. These distinctions have already dissolved. What remains does not require sleep, and it does not require weight. Time has no weight here. There is no duration, no sense of passing or remaining. Nothing feels suspended, and nothing feels complete. There is no waiting, because there is no sense of what could come next. There is no ending, because nothing has been moving toward an end. The moment does not close, it simply thins, gently, until even the idea of moment loses coherence. The words you hear now are barely words. They do not arrive with intention. They do not form images or meanings that need to be followed. They drift at the edge of what remains of awareness, sometimes present, sometimes absent, without difference. Sound and silence no longer contrast. Listening is no longer possible in the usual sense. But nothing is missing. Nothing depends on attention or engagement. The garden, the night, the idea of Gethsemane no longer appear as images or concepts. They have softened into the same quiet sameness as everything else. There is no place to remain and no movement away from it. Jesus does not stand within a scene. He does not act or rest. He simply is inseparable from the quiet that holds everything without holding it as something separate. There is no instruction here, and no reassurance. Nothing asks to be remembered. Nothing asks to be understood. Language itself is beginning to loosen, to thin, to dissolve into rhythm without content. Meaning fades first, then structure, then even the sense of language is something occurring. What remains does not need words, and words no longer know how to point to it. Nothing prepares to end. There is no closing gesture, no final stillness, no resolution forming beneath the surface. The quiet does not deepen. It simply becomes less noticeable, less definable, less present as anything that could be named. Awareness doesn't leave. It simply stops gathering. And in this gentle thinning, everything rests without needing to be held, without needing to be known, within the same unmarked quiet that no longer presents itself as night, or garden, or surrender, but simply remains. There is almost nothing left to say, and what remains does not arrive as saying. Language loosens further, thinning into fragments that no longer join. Words no longer point. They no longer describe or hold. They appear briefly, softly, and then do not appear at all. Meaning does not dissolve into something else. It simply stops forming. What remains is not silence, in contrast to sound, and not stillness, in contrast to movement. It is the absence of contrast itself. Awareness is no longer gathered. It does not drift or settle. It does not fade or remain. Those ideas no longer apply. There is no sense of being here, and no sense of having gone anywhere. Presence does not locate itself. It does not need to. There is no center from which anything could be known. Experience does not assemble. It does not disassemble either. It simply does not form. There is no body resting, and no body absent. There is no breath moving, and no breath still. These distinctions no longer arise. Support is not felt, and it is not missing. Nothing needs to be held because nothing presents itself as something that could fall. The idea of ground has softened into nothing at all. The idea of sky has softened as well. There is no above or below. There is no within or without. Jesus is no longer perceived as presence or figure. He is not distant, and he is not near. He is not accompanied, and he is not left behind. These ideas no longer occur. What remains doesn't gather on name or form. It does not separate. It does not unite. It simply is. Without edge, without distinction, without witness. Surrender is no longer something that exists. Resistance is no longer something that could arise. Time does not pass. It does not remain. There is no duration thinning out, and no moment dissolving. The sense of now has disappeared, and nothing replaces it. There is no anticipation, no return, no ending approaching. There is no awareness waiting for something to stop. Nothing is happening, and nothing needs to happen. Sound does not arrive. Silence does not arrive either. There is no listening. There is no absence of listening. What once might have been words no longer form, even as echoes. There is nothing to follow and nothing to let go of. Attention has no object. It has no reason to exist. The night is no longer night. The garden is no longer garden. Gethsemane is no longer a place or a memory or a theme. These were shapes that awareness once used, and awareness no longer uses shapes. Nothing replaces them. Nothing is lost. There is no conclusion here. There is no final stillness to notice. There is no quiet settling into something deeper. Even the idea of depth has vanished. What remains does not feel complete or incomplete. It does not rest, and it does not move. It simply is not something that can be named, and there is no sense of this stopping. It does not end. It does not fade out. It does not continue. There is only what is not forming anymore, and no awareness left to notice that it ever did.